Here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Leela Harris with Expanding Consciousness, and I'm here with Kaleo Salah with Dragon
Woo, woo.
Coaching. And
Yeah.
we planned to have a conversation, and we weren't sure what we were going to talk about. But I think we've decided we're probably going to at least start off talking about the feminine, because the last video we did, we've just done one besides this one, was on the masculine. And that was probably like 3 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay,
Yeah.
talk about the feminine. And and then right before we start the recording, you're like, how long should we go for? I'm like, I don't know. And you said, give me an answer. I said, 30 minutes.
Right.
So that
Right.
to me, Kaleo, the difference between like my feminine energy, which is like, let's just flow and see what happens. And then the masculine is be decisive, make a decision.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And there's rampant examples of the difference between men and women, or let's say the difference between what I have come to experience in my 52 years as the standard prototypical female mindset, brain, action, decision making, right? So let's quite often say the non-decision making, right? The wishy-wash, okay, versus the standard prototypical male is short, direct, curt, just not really even asking many questions, right? Very non-communicative, sort of like if I have to explain what I'm doing, maybe you're not the right person, kind of thing. So when I ask a question, something that is like, time, temperature, resources based, like, it has to be in a box. I ask a particular question. Hey, leader, how long are we going to do this? Because I've got other things going on. And you say, well, we can just flow. Right. So, the answer to how long are we going to go can't be, I don't know. It can't be, I don't know. It can't be. The world can't work that way. It cannot work that way. And anyone who mistakes that for compassion and what else do they mistake that for? They mistake that for fluid, like just go with the flow. They mistake that for being what they call it, flexible, right? If I ask you a question, how long are we going to go? I'm not looking for fluid flexibility and all that stuff. I'm looking for a time. And then you said, right after you started with, I don't know, let's kind of be flexible. You said 30 minutes. I said, okay. You said 30 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. That's great. That's an actual answer to my question.
Yeah, and you're right. I know this too through my own personal experience, that it can be wishy-washy and it can be an avoidance of taking direction and making a decision. But I also want to, I guess I feel like I want to stand up for the feminine a little bit, because there is a good side to that, the balance. Because then if it's only that way, which I know you're not that way from talking to you, but if it's too much just the one way with no flow, right? No flexibility, then it becomes like almost like the fanatical mind that cannot change direction when life is trying to move us in a different way. So
Absolutely.
It really is finding that balance. But you're right, you can't really make something happen or build something with just that feminine flowing energy, because someone needs to kind of direct the energy one way or the other.
Right. And so absolutely right. Right. So if I ask, what is the structure? What is the frame? What is the design? What are the materials we are going to use to build this house that my family is going to live in? You can't kind of do that. You can't sort of think about that on the fly. You can't go with that flow. There is no flow there.
Mm-hmm.
These are hard and fast things that have to happen because the foundation of sustainability has to be structural and elemental. So you have to know the basic elements of interacting, in this case, the basic elements of expectations, right? The basic elements of communication, right? So people say, even I just said something about, men, characteristically are less communicative than women. But you know what? That might not be true. That might not be true. It might be that women's, the female communication style is so muddled with this or that or left and right, or it's like you actually just don't know what someone's trying to say, or metaphor, like so much metaphor and so much just beating around the bush, and so much. I have a friend, I have a female friend, and she talks about she likes her communication style, even though it's very indirect, and it quite often gets her in trouble because no one knows what she's talking about. And her excuse me, her rationale for beating around the bush and not being direct and being vague is that she doesn't want to hurt people's feelings. She doesn't want to create an environment of disappointment. I don't know how you run a business, a company, a corp. I don't know how you run a business, a family, a team, or an individual life with being that way. I don't understand how that person is, over 40 years old. I don't know nothing gets anywhere by people beating around the bush and trying to save the feelings and the mental gymnastics of the people around you.
Mm-hmm. And there's some kind of belief and wound there that the person is taking responsibility for other people in that way. And that is actually a common unconscious of the feminine, maybe energy. And I've seen men have that as well.
Oh yeah, that's pathetic.
Very common with women, where the flow, for me, the flow is going also with my own flow. It's not about going with other people's flow and forgetting, like, who am I? What's going on inside of me? Connecting to myself, which actually took me years to do, Kaleo. And I had a lot of the things like what you just mentioned, the fear of standing on my own feet and making a decision based on my connection to myself. And although I am predominantly feminine, like my energy is very feminine, I can do that with my feminine energy because I can do that in a gentle way. I can do that with my own essence in a kind, compassionate way without avoiding communicating what I need to do, what I need to say, and it is actually more selfish to hold back because you put the burden on other people. They have to work hard to figure out what is it that you're trying to say, like what you just described. So we're
Right.
actually putting it on the people around us to
Yeah.
try to navigate, because yeah, there's fear there, there's insecurities there, where I
Yeah.
feel the flowering of the feminine heart can open with that balance of looking inside, taking responsibility, knowing ourselves, knowing what's in our heart.
Knowing what you want, knowing what you want. And it doesn't mean you have to want something new, bigger, better, grander. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you want something that you don't have. Quite the opposite of that, actually. Knowing what you want requires deciding which direction you are headed with your life force. Is it internal or external?
Mhm.
And if your decision, right, because that's a decision a person has to make. It's a decision everyone has to make. If a person's decision is, I am directing my life externally, I'm directing my life, I'm giving my energy externally, then it would be very difficult for that person to return to themselves and actually get what they want or need. It'll be very difficult, because how many distractions are there out there? There's the kids, there's the husband, there's the money, there's the house, there's the projects, there's the PTA, there's the, oh man, the ailing parent, there's the, it gets overwhelming very quickly.
Mhm.
And so there's all this reaching out versus making the decision that I am directing my life inward and from within. That's one direction. And everything in your life has to fit that. Everything. There is no out there. There is no outside. Anything that results from that decision, that inward decision, everything that results comes from within. So there is no out there that's just sort of running the show. It's impossible for anything out there to run the show.
Now, what
So
about
the decision, the decision, let me just finish this. The decision has to be, am I running my life from internal or external? That's it. And that then generates everything going forward.
now? What about the aspect of the feminine that is nurturing?
Yeah.
Now
Self-nurture.
Huh?
Self-nurture. Self-nurture from the inside.
Nurturing, yes. Yes.
So, I mean, it's, in any question you ask me, it gets back to, are you going internal or external? Every single question you would ever ask me, right? What about other people? Other people don't live inside you. That's external. What about other people? What about the trillions of infinities of things that you can say, what about? Keep on going, right? What about the broken leg child who got hit by a bus on the walking home in the snow from their, broke back mother who is a crack addict? I mean, good Lord, how many stories we got like this, So self-nurture, right? Compassion, self-compassion, self-centered, center yourself, right? Self reliance, be reliable to yourself. Forget about being reliable to everyone else. Be reliable to yourself. I get pretty excited about this. And what we call it, and here's what we call it, okay? Acting from external is misguided.
Mm-hmm.
It automatically guides you in the wrong direction. Automatically. That's it.
Mhm.
So the decision has to be, like, what do you want? Has to be, I want myself to be as useful to myself and anything else I touch as possible. How do I do that? I got to go inside.
Mhm.
I have to know what's under my skin. I have to know what's under my, under my bonnet. I have to know first. First, know thyself, right? I mean, that's one of the most basic tenets of Hermetic philosophy. First, know thyself.
And I find the feminine, and of course, I'm not in a man's body, so I'm just working off my connection to my own energy. And I've had some experience with my masculine energy, but
Yep.
in my experience, my feminine energy is actually able to help me connect to what's happening inside me easier. It's just about, like what you said, where's the focus? Is it directed inward? And I can sense it's feeling, I guess, is it involves feeling. What am I feeling? Am I feeling sad? Because if I'm feeling sadness inside, I want to acknowledge that and let myself feel it, for example, because otherwise I'm repressing.
That's right.
Repressing it down. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Right. So
And
unacknowledged. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and what you said about other people, that idea of, well, feeling for other people, which can happen consciously or unconsciously. For example, if
Right.
I'm feeling sad and I'm pressed it down, I might project that onto other people who are representing what I'm sad about without realizing it. So trying to save
Yeah.
people, trying to rescue them, trying to nurture them, but ignoring my own emotional and feeling world that needs my attention and actually is where I need to focus my nurturing on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. And so the simple act of focusing inward is nurturing. The
Yes.
simple act of focusing inward is compassionate. The simple act of focusing inward is regenerative,
Mhm.
right? Self-regeneration. I mean, come on. When you when you in the alchemist world, where when we figure out that we are that which self-regenerates, this isn't science fiction. We are a self-regenerative battery system. We are it. It's like, yeah, that's a trick. That's a trick I need to know. That's a trick I need to know. I mean, that goes all the way to you're not dead until you decide to die.
Mhm.
You know that one?
Mm-mm. No, could you
You
expand
don't
that?
you don't you don't you don't die until you decide to die. I mean, it's very unexplainable, but it's a truth that came to me probably 20 years ago, as I had a pretty profound conversation. Actually, it was a normal conversation with a person at a pretty profound time of my life, and we said it at the same time. So we came together. We'd only known each other for a couple of weeks, and in this one conversation, we each had something to say to each other. We said, okay, when we get together, I got something to say to you, you got something to say to me. And that wasn't the point of either of our conversations of what we wanted to say, but we got there at the same time, like in two different ways. And then each of us had a dream the night before about something like that, where some voice told us, yes, that is true. Yes, that is true. Right? So put that together with self-regeneration, and all you have to do is make the choice, make the decision, choose the option of internal perspective, and that's it. It's all autopilot after that, right? You know what death cannot do? Death cannot surprise you if that's what you do.
Mhm.
it's it's just a state of internal awareness. That's all it is. Now, if you're externally motivated, if you're externally directed, death will surprise you because it ain't out there. It ain't out there.
Yeah, I'm getting
It'll hit you in the head like where the hell did that come from? You know? Because you look in the wrong direction. So self-regeneration is a byproduct, is a convenient byproduct of making the decision to generate your life from internal, self-healing, self-medicating, self-centered, self-aware. That's what you just said. That's what you just said. If I don't do that, I will repress and I will leak it out. I'll translate it and I'll leak it out there, out to the people, out to the world that I care so much about looking good and having high status and having people think well of me.
Yeah, or being validated or being approved of, being loved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these, and a lot of my process, I could look at it that way, is just taking out the need from outside. The need for approval, the need to not, all these different things that leak my energy outward to close up. I guess I think of it as closing up the holes. So then I access more of my life force. And when I do that, I'm accessing more of my creativity, more of this kind of joy and love that's more internal. It's not dependent on things around me or people. So then I don't have to be, there's less control, need to control, need to manipulate.
Need to control, need to manipulate, need to anticipate, need to have expectations, need to trust, hope, faith, that stuff out the window. All of it out the window. It's so incredible. It's such an incredible existence, right? I mean, I've been living like this my whole life. No one taught me how to be this way, and it's you know, it's remarkable how different my life, like knowingly my life, is than so many people I've known who live the opposite. It's incredible. I'll be in the same room, in the same team, in the same business, in the same street, you know, sometimes in the same bedroom, you know, sometimes in the same house, you know, and the exact same scenarios that we're all going through, their life is destroyed by it, and my life is enhanced by it. The same exact scenario. And the only thing is the orientation of my life force is internal rather than external. That's it. It's the only difference. And it seems to make all the difference in the world. It seems to be where spiritual alchemy actually begins and ends, actually. Begins and ends. Because everything is internal, right? So any thought you have about something out there is an internal thought. So it's still in here. It's not out there. Thoughts are not out there. Thoughts are in here. So any thought or perception or perspective you have on anything is inside. So that's where everything is. That's the factory.
And I've experienced a little bit ago, you mentioned compassion, the misunderstood, like what we call compassion and what really is compassion. And the more compassion I have for myself in that inner focus, is it just naturally, without even trying, flows to the people around me. Because there is that sense that the world, which I think is just the mind, other people, just the mind, they mirror to me my internal world. Yeah.
Right. And so with dragon performance coaching, right? So I train dragons. And a prerequisite is generating your own power and then using that power for something.
Mhm.
And dragon compassion is very different than human compassion. Dragon love is very different than human love, right? So dragon compassion, the real compassion, quite often looks very different to the people out there who don't have the internal perspective and who are expecting the broken form of compassion when I come around. It's quite often, right? So our first rule, right? We have two number one rules in our practice. One is absolute opportunity perspective, and the other one is stop. Stop is how you have compassion. You don't have compassion unless you can stop. And you say, okay, Kaleo, stop what? Stop trying to save people from their life.
Mhm.
Well, okay, well, compassion says that we need to help people, right? Help people become stronger as they live life and, you know, lose a limb or lose an eye right quick. When Leela, where are the when do humans generally learn the best lessons and actually change? When? Under what circumstances?
When we experience the consequences
Yeah,
of what we're doing and what we're, yeah, of
right.
how we're living.
Yeah. So if I care so much about someone that I'm going to pay attention to them and be compassionate toward them, they will become instantly a mirror to my world. Which, you think I'm easy on myself? No, no, no. If what you just said is true, that the way you're compassionate with yourself begins to reflect itself out there just normally and naturally. Well, if I'm going to think about my level of compassion for myself and then reflect it out there, it might look a little bit different than what someone wants.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most of the time it looks different. It looks harsh, or it looks mean, or it looks uncaring from the uninitiated eye, from the eye that's looking for victim, victimizer, savior. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do any of those three. And if I have to pick one because a person forces me to, I always pick victimizer because that's the most fun. I'm not a savior. I'm never going back to savior behavior. And I've never been a victim, ever. So the only one left for me is victimizer, which means here we go. Here we go. It becomes full contact very quickly because that's what they want. And I make sure that I benefit, right? Opportunity perspective. I make sure that it is a huge opportunity for me to learn something about myself within myself, which quite often it is, certain times, what I've learned about myself is that I can be beyond ruthless. And that's compassion in those moments. That's compassion. Right. So what do they say when you see an animal on the road and it's all hobbled, just got hit by a truck or something, and it's not dead? What do they say? Get out of the car and go kill it, put it out of its misery. That's compassion. It's hardcore, man. It's hardcore. And that's, women, feminine women, especially in 2021, and beyond. You guys got to learn a little bit of that stuff, man. You got to learn a little bit of that. You got to learn a little bit of that. Okay. It's like you got to rattle. You're a rattlesnake and you bite. And you bite.
Well, I said 30 minutes, so we have a few minutes left.
All right, honey.
What about
Respond to some of that. Respond to some of that what I just said.
yeah.
I'm talking pretty harsh, brutal reality here, you know?
Yes. And a lot of us, like you said about the opportunity, that's what I've been experiencing in myself the last couple of years with this virus, with all these things going on in the world. It's been an opportunity to work through my fears and my own things. That's what I was thinking about as you were talking, but also you were talking about dragon performance coaching and how you, of course, that's coming from you, that's your energy, and how my business, Expanding Consciousness, I do run it in a very feminine way. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're almost like a little bit like opposites in the sense.
Well, we're and right. So you can think opposites, which is the third dimension way of thinking about it, or you can say that we are threads within a spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we're not opposites.
Or we're not opposing each other.
Thank you. So let's watch our language. Okay, so let's watch our language, right? So I'm incredibly strict on this. Okay, so if we're going to ascend to the fifth dimension and beyond, we have to watch how we describe the third dimension, because we all, if all we see is black and white and opposing and this or that, or yin and yang, or male and female, and somebody has the win, we'll never get anywhere. We'll never get anywhere. And that's the way I see America now, right? I've been in Australia for 13 years, and I just see the demise of America big time in all these ways that I'm talking about right now. Opposing, right? Opposite, right? Let's just say we are threads within an infinite broadband spectrum of light, and I really, really love the dark stuff. I really love the dark stuff, man. It's the best. I eat it. That's where all my nourishment comes from. Okay, dark matter, right? I love it, love it, love it. I live in it. Okay, because I'm so light. Because I am of the light, right? I have nothing to be afraid of. Nothing. The demons run from me, quite honestly. Okay, they run from me, right? They call me their devil, right? So when I do exorcism, I have the person I'm doing the exorcism with, I have them talk to the demon directly, and they answer they answer the question all the time. And the question is, how do I know that this interaction with this entity, this demon, is legit? And it's not just part of my psychosis, or it's not just part of something that I'm making up, or something that Kaleo is suggesting. And they answer the same way. Kaleo, once the person says, I'm working with Kaleo, Kaleo's out here, the same exact thing happens every time. They run. They get instantly scared. Mm-hmm. They get instantly scared. And I can actually do things in their world to them that manifest in their world, right? So I love the dark. I love going into the cave. I love going into the cave and turning out the light and then becoming the thing that's scary in the cave. I love that. Okay, I love that. So I walk down dark alleys in foreign cities. Okay, I mean, that's what I do. I'm the thing that people need to be afraid of. Now you're at a different level of light on the spectrum. You're not opposite to that. You're just in a different level of light.
But I don't walk down dark alleys for fun, but I do, and I use a process called the Dali Method, and I do go into dark things quite often. I've seen a lot in me. as far as things that have shocked me, because it's about going into the unconscious to see the underlying issue of what's causing the symptoms, the external struggles. And yeah, there's those dark things in me as well. So I do understand what you mean about, even though maybe, yeah, the different thread is there with how my essence is with the feminine.
Well, you just proved we're not opposite. Okay, you just said a little bit of what I have, a whole lot of, a little bit of it is in you, and you dabble in it, or you get your feet wet in it a little bit, right? I live in it.
I don't dabble in it. I actually go through my unconscious darkness.
Okay.
And I transform it to light. I don't dabble.
All right.
I heal.
All right. So we're not opposite. Okay.
No,
there we go. We're not opposite.
Not
okay. We're just different. We're just different levels of similar realities on the spectrum of, opportunity perspective. That's it.
Yes.
Right? That's like saying the woman is opposite to a man. No, men and women are not opposites. We're fucking the same. We're the same. We just do different stuff, we just do different stuff at different times, different ways. That's it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't work. That's the fun part.
Well, the gifts are different, just a little bit different of the
Yeah.
gifts, but we all have the gifts connected to that internal focus and connected
Yeah.
to our beingness.
Yeah.
Any last remarks about the
No.
I do
No.
want to say one thing about the feminine, which I think you're very connected to, Kaleo, is unpredictability and mystery. I feel that's connected to, women can connect to that in a woman's body. And that can make people uncomfortable that are not connected to their own flow from within, the let go into the unknown.
Yeah.
That can be quite scary. Yeah.
Well, it's open and unbridled, right? So if you can't put a woman in a cage, then she's scared. She's the witch that needs to be burned at the stake. Mm-hmm. So if a woman can't be put in the cage, if a woman can't be figured out in 3 minutes or less, if a woman is mysterious and what do you call it, elusive, and she's been branded scary. It's a scary ass bitch, right? She's been branded scary and crazy, right? So that's where the term hysterectomy came from, right? So they take a woman's all her gizzards out to make her stop being so freaking crazy. So stop being so hysterical. They tried to make her not a woman. That's crazy. Non-medical hysterectomies? You're just doing it because you're in your terrible 30s and you're just a little bit irrational, and and your husband says, "Oh, honey, you got to go under the knife and go get your gizzards all cut out because you're just a little bit."
Control.
Yeah. So you're right about one thing. You can't talk about the masculine without talking about the feminine. And you have to talk about the feminine within the masculine. You have to talk about the masculine within the feminine. That's what I see that we've been doing tonight. And if we can bring that to a level of fifth dimension connectedness, interrelatedness, then a lot of those third dimension polar opposite things will just dissolve. They just dissolve under their own weight. And that's one of our jobs, right? So I do it from the masculine side because I'm a man, so I deal with men, right? Men 40 and over who want to get the balls back, who want to live a better second half, who want to reinvent themselves, who want to, finally grow up, right? I do that with men. I'm not working with women anymore. Because what's real is I clearly don't get it. I clearly don't get the nuance of being a woman, I clearly don't get it. I have tried. You know, I leave the women for the women. I leave the young people with the young people. And, you know, I'm for men I'm for the men who want to be serious about dragon and finally get real with life.
Yeah.
And work through that masculine dilemma that we all carry.
Yeah. And when I work with people, we work with whatever's happening and whatever they're struggling with, and we follow the thread inward through all the layers. So it's about honoring the feelings and the thoughts. So yeah. Well, I always love talking to you because it's always an adventure, Kaleo. So I just thought I'd wrap it up, but I wanted to thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking me. It's about time that we got back to it. And, you know, at first when you said that we're going to talk about the feminine, I said, well, I'm not working with women anymore. You know, I clearly don't know what's up with the feminine. I think I know more about what's up with the feminine than I give myself credit, because at some point it's the same. At some point it becomes a universal conversation of, are you looking inward? You looking outward? Are you taking care of yourself first? Are you doing that? And that seems to be the big decision that women at some age, they make a decision and they go, you know what? I have never taken care of myself first, ever. Too busy being a wife, too busy being a mother, too busy being a caretaker, too busy being busy. You know?
Which actually becomes kind of a convenient excuse to not, because there's often fear and resistance in taking responsibility for our own lives. So if we're distracted, you know, it becomes, you know, a lot of these things are excuses for not taking responsibility for what we're here to do and what we're here to live and realize. But once you make that shift, it becomes really exciting and really joyful, and a lot of great things, magical things happen from my own
free.
Yeah.
Freeing. You know, the weight of the world literally lifts off your shoulders. You're like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
What was I doing? And then you get mad, right? Because they taught you how to be that way. And then you go through the mad resentment, and then you go to the isolation of like, you know, I just want to be a hermit. I just want to never deal with another human ever in my life. And just like, oh my God, you know, who else is out there who's doing this? Who knows this? It's like, oh my God. Then that's the planet of one, right? Then you turn into a planet of one. And a lot of people, that's where a lot of people get in really big trouble. When they go into that hermit mode, they just say, you know, forget the world. I hate the world. I hate my parents. I hate everybody who's taught me to be this. I hate the news. Forget the media, Rupert Murdoch, or, you know, everybody. I hate these people. I hate Hollywood. You know, it just turns into hate, and separation and isolation. And a lot of people get stuck there.
Yeah, it's
a lot of them.
Phrase, but we need to go. We don't want to get stuck there. I agree. Yeah.
Everybody goes through it, but you can't get stuck there. Oh, that's a bad one. That's a bad one. All right, honey, take care of yourself. Thanks for the call, and have a great day. Good Wednesday morning to you, right?
Tuesday morning, because you're in Australia and I'm in Kansas City. Yeah, we're on different
Tuesday morning. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.